वंदे गुजरात।
Very good morning, everyone. I welcome you to one more episode of Building Confidence Through Public Speaking. And today we're going to talk about speech curation. How do we form a speech, opening, body, conclusion, and many more things. But before that, we would love to know more about how the program is going. And you can do that by sending me DMs on Khushal Lalwani at Instagram and Facebook pages. I hope and wish there is some value addition out of these programs in your life, in your confidence and communication skills. First of all, we would like to have a quick recap of what we did in last two sessions. First session, we got to know why is public speaking important and why one should have a strong why in their life, not just for public speaking, but all the aspects of the life. We also got to know what is public speaking and what is not public speaking. We also talked about how we can develop our communication skills and public speaking skills. Then we also got to know what are the types of public speaking, what are the types of speeches we use, which is motivational, inspirational, humorous, storytelling, negotiation, and many more art forms. In our second day, we got to know how do we effectively introduce yourself or someone else. How do we do that? There are three types of self-introduction. One is formal, which is in kind of interviews. Second is informal, where you introduce yourself to a group of new friends or club members in a new organization or a new club. Third is a very quick one, which is the elevator speech, wherein you get very short time to introduce yourself or connect with someone who might be of importance in your life. In context with giving introduction to someone else or introducing someone else to a public is also defined. It is of three types. Again, how do you introduce a speaker? Your introduction has to be very brief because the speaker will do the main talking. How do you introduce someone who is going to get an award from you? Therein, you give a long introduction because of that introduction, that credibility of the person receiving the award is established. Third, a very brief introduction in case of marriages or funeral. Here, the choice of word has to be very apt. And that is most important part when you introduce yourself or someone else in any setup or any premise or any occasion. Today, we're going to talk about organization of speech. How do you organize your speech? One way of doing it is giving out random thoughts, whatever you have in your mind, and communicating your ideas, how you want to express your thoughts or ideas to someone else. The better way of doing it is when the structure of the speech is very well defined. It has to be very smooth. I'll give you an example to set up this premise. How do you do it is, I was born in a particular date in particular city, then I did my schooling, then I did my college, then I joined this career, then I thrived in my business, I also got married, these are my aspirations, and this is where I want to go. Instead of this, if you get to know a very haphazard introduction by someone, for example, right now I'm pursuing my career here, I was born in Blue City, Jodhpur, I did my schooling there, I'm also married, I've got 2 kids, I started my career. So, thoughts are very random. Now, having a smooth flow of your speech helps you in two ways. First of all, to your audience, it is very smooth on their ears. They can accept it very easily without putting in much effort. Secondly, organizing your speech or giving the structure to your speech also gives you the comfort of remembering that speech. Speech in that case is almost as good as a story, where it's as a start, as a body, and as an end. So, for a better speech or to have a speech which gives a very good impact on the audience, it is definitely required to have a smooth flow of the speech, and the organization should be very apt. How do we do that? First of all, we'll decide and define what is the opening of our speech? Any speech can be divided in three parts. One is opening, body, and conclusion. Opening is, and we'll talk about many kinds of speeches where they have different kind of opening, body, and conclusion. But to have a generalized view, the best part is the opening is one wherein you grab the attention of the audience. An amazing line, a quotation, an idiom, incident, or something which tells about the topic. Opening is something which immediately grabs the attention of the audience and they are hooked up to your speech. It is always said in public speaking that first 15 seconds are very crucial, because then is when audience will decide, I want to hear this speech or not. So that is very important. You need to have an opening line which is very, very catchy, attention grabbing, and impactful. Also, most important part is conclusion. Because if opening line gives you the attention of the audience, conclusion is the one which makes you remember as a great speaker by the audience. So an amazing opening and amazing conclusion are very, very essential. To the extent I would say that conclusion is as important as 11 on the scale of 10. Conclusion should be a takeaway, should to be a call to action, something which defines your speech. The one thing which you will be remembered for by your audience even long after your speech is over. How do you give that perfect opening line which catches the attention and audience is immediately hooked by your speech? It could be a question. You can ask them a question which stirs them up, which makes them think. What do you think will be the face of India 20 years from now? It could be a question. It could be an idiom. Be the change you want to see in the world. Or it could be a line which defines you, which is the motto of your life. For example, my line would be, life may be rude, but I am the dude. Any of these lines which immediately grabs the attention of the audience gets you in the skin of the game. It could also be a prop. For example, if I'm talking about a phone and it defined by showing a phone, it will definitely get the audience attention that, okay, he's going to tell about something. It could be a flower, it could be a blazer, it could be anything. Prop is also a very good way of getting audience's attraction. Other than that, there are many things which might get you nearer to the audience. In case of perfect opening, your opening should be relevant to your topic, the content of your speech. What should not be a good opening is never apologize. Sorry for being late, sorry if I'm not dressed properly, sorry I'm not ready for the speech, or any kind of sorries, worries, or apologies. Avoid using that in your speech, at least when you start your speech, because that would not be a good impression on the audience. Second thing which should not be an opening is things which are not relevant. Let's say I'm going to talk about climate change and then suddenly I prop up a joke on my neighbor or my wife or my students or anyone. Whatever you say has to be in relevance with the speech which you're going to talk about. So what could be an opening? Opening could be an amazing line, it could be an idiom, it could be a question, it could be quotation, it could be anything which grabs audience attention. Always remember, never start with sorries, worries, apologies, or any other things which are not relevant to your speech. Now, coming back to opening, body, conclusion. What is opening, body, and conclusion? Opening, as we talk, should be an amazing line which you start and get the attention of the audience, and it should take audience to your topic. It could be why the topic was chosen, why it is relevant to you and me, or something of that sort. Body is where you define the topic, where you give examples, incidents, main points, sub points about the speech which you are going to deliver. That will be your body. Conclusion, of course, summarizes all your speech points and then it gives a call of action or a takeaway. For example, an example of a good takeaway can be, which makes me realize that hard work is always important. Smart work works, but hard work also pays. So that is a good takeaway. Call for action could be something like, because of climate change, we are already facing a lot of issues and there is no planet B. So right now, go out, switch off that AC, use cycles, use less fuels, and similar things. So call of action or takeaway is an amazing conclusion. Now, in respect to various kinds of speeches, we'll see how this opening body conclusion works. For example, the most common type of speeches which we have is problem solving speeches, wherein in opening you relate the audience with that particular problem. In body you express or you define what problem is, how it is hampering everyone around us, and how it is relevant to all of us. In conclusion, you give them the solution of that particular problem. Let's again take the example of climate change. Perfect opening could be, do you think there is planet B where we can move on to? Other than Elon Musk, probably most of us do not have that planet B. So that becomes the opening, and which is relevant to your topic, which is climate change. In your body, you give main points and sub points. So main points could be, glaciers are melting, and you can give the example of Antarctica or relevant examples. The research has to be done by you. Then you give an incident wherein it has, let's say Geneva Convention or any convention or at UN where people have gone and talked about this particular thing. So you give an incident. You can have another main point, then a sub point, and another incident, example, or fact or figure for that, which comes to the body of that particular speech. In conclusion, you can say, okay, these are the talks which we had, and so in solution, what we can do is use less fuels and all the points which we have discussed earlier. And a certain call of action or a particular takeaway would definitely mend it in a perfect, smooth speech. Another kind of speech is motivational speech. Now, motivational speech is somewhere where we start with the opening. It could be an amazing line which is said by the person who is motivational speaker or whose example you are going to give in your speech. And then you establish the character of that person. Who was that person? What was his suffering? What was his achievements? How he got there? What he did all through his life? And the message of his life. For example, if we take the example of Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, what we can do is we can start with one of his favorite lines. Be the change what you want to see in the world. And then you said by Mahatma Gandhi. Then you give his life stories, where he started, where he was born, how he went all the way to South Africa, how he did his law practice. And then in body, you can tell what was the defining moment wherein he was changed with perspective of how he should take his life forward. The incident wherein he was thrown out of a train, then he realized, I'll make the Britishers move out of my country. That is the main part of the story that comes in body, should be supplied with relevant examples, incidents, and empathy. It should also have the emphasis on a particular incident so that the audience get to know, okay, this is the changing moment of the story. And in conclusion, you give them the achievements which he had. Finally, he got independence with all other freedom fighters. And this is the message of his life. So next time, be Indian, buy Indian, or something of that sort. So another type of speech wherein we can define opening, body, conclusion is a motivational speech. Inspirational speech is another kind of speech where how do we define opening, body, conclusion is, always remember that whenever a story becomes inspirational, it has to have big misery in that. For example, I establish my character, then I say, okay, I came to the city with 10 rupees in my pocket. Then I started my business. Then I failed. Then I started another business. I failed. And finally, I succeeded. So, how I establish my character, that becomes the opening. In body, I gave the incidents example, main point, my first iteration, my first experience, my first exposure to failures. Then what was it? Second main point, sub point, and the incident related to it. And finally, how I achieved success and how you can also replicate the success formula. So that becomes inspirational for everyone. Inspirational stories generally have this more of misery, so you become bigger a hero. Third kind of speech could be humorous speech, wherein you, in a light setup, you're just trying to narrate a story, an incident, or anything which creates humor. How does it have opening, body, and conclusion? Because you want the people to laugh or be fun, be light at their heart. All what you want to do is make it light right from the beginning. So you can start with a very funny line or a joke which you know, and then establish the character, maybe problems, solution of that problems which came out to be funny, and last point, it could be how or what were the learnings from that particular incident. Even that could be funny, but it could be otherwise also. For an example, if I say that I had this pronunciation problem, pronunciation, not pronunciation, now I know. Whenever I used to say vibes, it used to come out as wives. So that is a setup. Whenever now onwards I will use vibes, it would be heard by the audience as wives, or it will be conceptualized as audience by wives. So the whole idea is, whenever you want to try a humor, you can also use analogy. Here the analogy would become the opening part of the speech. We would continue this story in the humorous section later, but right now we are talking about opening, body, conclusion. So any kind of speech needs to have a perfect opening wherein the premise is set or the relevancy of the topic is established. Then you come to the body wherein you give examples and subpoints, and then you conclude. Another kind of speech is storytelling. What do you do in storytelling in the opening? You establish a character. If you recall, most of the books which you have read, mostly it's fiction. In that case, the author takes immense number of chapters, or at least 5 to 10 pages, to establish the character. How did he look? How did he felt? What were his eating habits? What were his hobbies, or things like that. So he was a tall, skinny man with a beard, and he was very smart. He was good at English. He likes food. Establishes the character, which means the audience can visualize. If the speaker can make the audience visualize his or her character, it is half work done. So try to be very, very informative. Talk about details and minutes with the setting up or building a character in terms of storytelling. Once you establish the character, you talk about his challenges in the life, how you overcome it, and finally the conclusion. Another type of speech we talked about is negotiation. Again, same thing. How do we do opening? Opening is you establish what is the current situation. This is what a buyer want to buy and a seller want to sell. This is where the deal is stuck. And then you give facts and figures in the body. And in conclusion, you say this is the best possible outcome which one should go with. And that is how you give opening, body, conclusion, or the flow of your speech in case of negotiation. We also talk about introducing ourselves. So I'll give the example again that while introducing yourself, you give opening, which could be the motto of your life, the mission of your life, the vision, or anything which defines you and gets you to the introduction of yourself. Then you give them the story. Okay, here I was born. This is what I am doing right now. This is what I aspire to be in future. This is what my vision is. This is what my likes and dislikes are. And then finally you tell them the conclusion that, okay, despite all this, I'm going to do this in life, and I would love to be a part of your organization, or I would like to know you better, or how you can conclude it by summarizing it. So these were the kind of speeches where we defined opening, body, conclusion, basically the structure or curation part of the speech. To generalize all this, we can conceptualize it as why, what, and how. For example, all these kind of speeches, first we talk about why am I talking about this? Why are we talking about this problem, or why are we telling you this story, or why are we doing this negotiation at the first place? Why are we talking about this motivational hero, or why I'm telling you my inspirational story? Then you tell them what is the story, and then you tell how you can also replicate that in your life if it is an inspirational story or someone's motivational story. So broadly generalizing all that we have read or said could be why, what, and how. While curating a speech, another important point which is to be noticed is every speech should have a general purpose and a specific purpose. By general purpose, I mean the speech either is informative or motivational or inspirational or storytelling, engaging, entertaining, or whatever you want your speech to be. The audience should clearly know what kind of speech it is. For example, if I'm giving an informative speech, it has to be lots of facts, figures, data, incidents, examples, and that is how it defines, okay, this is an informative speech, where you are giving information to your audience. If it is a motivational speech, it has to be clearly realized that it is a motivational story. You're telling them about someone's life and giving them the takeaway or call of action by inspiring someone or motivating someone. So that is general purpose. General purpose can be defined as, general purpose of speeches could be informative, it could be inspirational, it could be motivational, it could be engaging, it could be entertaining, it could be storytelling, it could be negotiation, it could be anything of that sort. So that becomes the general purpose. Now comes the specific purpose. For example, if I want to give my general purpose of the speech is informative, and I'm going to talk about climate change, the climate change would be a specific purpose. Or for example, if my general purpose is motivational, my specific purpose would be talking about life of Mahatma Gandhi. If my general purpose is inspirational, my specific purpose could be the incident of my life which I want you to tell and inspire you. And likewise, all kind of speeches should have a general purpose and specific purpose. And why do we need this general purpose and specific purpose? So that we are focused. An audience also does not deviate what is happening out there. So whenever we know that it is okay, an informative speech, we should not put in more of drama, excitement, over energetic gestures or body language, because we know this is an informative speech and it has to revolve around facts, figures, data, analysis, and all those sort of things. In case of all these kinds of speeches, what we need to do is stick to general purpose. Specific purpose, of course, will follow, because this is the body and conclusion of your speech. So that has to be there. But general purpose, many times we see that a person is talking about something, all of a sudden his chain of thoughts go to some other direction, and the informative speech becomes a humorous speech, or a motivational speech becomes a storytelling, or a negotiation meet becomes self-introduction. So always stick, first define your general purpose very clearly and then stick to your general purpose, because that will keep you focused on your speech and your audience would love to hear, because you have the clarity of your speech and it could be easy for everyone to understand. Also, another idea of general purpose and specific purpose is that you have perfect content. By content, I mean if you have numerous instances, numerous examples within your body part, the body of your speech, it could be very easy to give too many examples, too many incidents. But if you have a proper vision, proper focus and clarity of your general purpose, you will limit that content which is most relevant to your speech topic. Also, context. Many times setting up the context for speech is equally important, at times more important than the content itself. And it is always said in public speaking that if content is king, context is God. For example, if I am talking right here about something and I give an example which is very relevant. The context is right. For example, the Ukraine war which is going on right now, or the money inflation, or whatever which is the context, people will easily relate to it, and that makes it much more audible, much more hearable and likable by the audience. So have control over your content and try to have a good context also. Another example could be, if I'm talking in front of MBA students and I give the examples of kindergarten, probably that context would not match, and content of course would not be that likable by the audience, and vice versa. Talking to kindergarten kids about rocket science would of course get them diverted from your speech. What else can we do? Generalizing our today's topic about giving opening body conclusion or curating your speech is what we also told again. Try to express your thoughts. Never try to impress the audience. Audience will eventually be impressed if you are very clear with your vision. For example, if I'm trying to be funny and I'm giving you non-relevant jokes and incidents which are funny, but it's not related to my topic, probably it would not impress the audience. But if I be simple, if jokes happens naturally within the speech, it's okay, and that might impress them much more. So point again revised, try to express, never try to impress the audience. Relevancy of your content, context, and the structure could be also defined by simple act of putting yourself in their shoes. If I am the audience, if I am hearing this person who's talking to me, will these words soothe me, or will these words irritate me? Will these words annoy me, or would I be liking these words? So choice of words, choice of content, choice of examples, incidents, even the topic should be such that if you are in the audience, you should like it. So easiest way to find whether the speech will be liked by the audience or not is put yourself in their shoes and find out if I am sounding that good, if I would be hearing myself, will I be attracted towards this speech? Another common thing which while writing the speech we get to know that what should be the word count. So always take this, that an ordinary normal speech should have word count of 100 words per minute. For example, if I am allowed or if I am given the opportunity to talk at any premises or a setup or any occasion for 5 minutes, I should be ideally prepared with 500 words of speech. Now that's a thumb rule. It could be little fluctuating in case of different kinds of speeches, but broadly if you are given 5 to 6 minutes, 500 words are okay. How does it fluctuate? For example, if I'm giving informative speech, I'll be giving lots of facts, figures, data where I don't need acknowledgement from the audience, or I don't want to interact with the audience in that particular aspect. It could be 600 words in 5 minutes. But at the same time, if I'm giving engaging speech or entertaining speech, I would be giving enough pauses to let the joke happen, or give enough pauses to have the laughter. In that case, 450 words would be enough for 5 minutes. Same in different setups. If you're trying to motivate someone, you want to give that emphasis, you want to raise a voice and tell that, okay, this is the most important part of my speech. You give that pause, you give that emphasis, or you give the repeat lines. Again, 450 words for 5 minutes. Or if you want to be really inspirational and you want to give them a story really quick, it could be again 550 words. So broadly what we can do is have 500 words for 5 minute speech, or on an average 100 words per minute. This would do two things. First of all, you would have your content checked for time limit, and it would of course be within the time limit when you're delivering it. I would always urge to, after curating the speech, practice it physically with the voice recorder or timer on, so that you actually get to know what is your words per minute for you in particular, and not the generalized one. It could be fast and slow for someone. It could be fast and slow for different premises, different setup, different set of audience even. So always try to practice your speech before making it the final draft. Now we come to the second part of the session, which is how do you control your speech? Controlling your speech could be done very easily by having audience response. Audience response, for example, I am talking to a live screen right now. I don't have audience response, but I need to be in control of my words, thoughts, the way I am thinking, the way I am delivering the speech at the same time. For example, many a times it happens that the rate of speed at which we think is more than rate of speed at which we talk. Herein, because I'm thinking faster and talking slow, my words will overlap. Or in other case, if I'm thinking slow and talking fast, I'll have this wait for the next line, or you know, I know, these kind of filler words. So always know that to have a proper control over the speech, you need to first of all be in sync with your thought and words. How do you do that? I've also mentioned it a day earlier that to have a proper sync in the frequency of your words and thoughts is read out books loud. That gives you an immense capability and practice of how you can think and speak at the same time. So best way to practice that is reading out books loud. Also, whenever you are prepared well, you won't have these challenges of having a control over your speech. So prepare too many times. How much is too much? I am not sure. It all depends on person to person. For example, if I am preparing for speech, I would prepare for at least 10 to 12 times. And 10 to 12 times is not much. For example, a 5-minute speech which I am going to prepare, if I prepare it for 10 times, it would be hardly 50 minutes. It is the time which you probably consume between the meals or between the work in your meal time or while traveling from one place to another. In any big city, it takes at least 15 to 20 minutes commuting from one place to another. In that time, you can rehearse that speech for 2 to 3 times. So, if you're really inclined towards public speaking and want to really give a best shot on that particular speech, rehearsing it for 10 times would not be a challenge at all compared to the results which we get. The confidence while you get on stage or screen or live with your friends, the confidence which you get is immense. And for that, you need to put in that effort of preparedness. So, for having a proper control over your speech, preparedness is definitely a major effort you need to put in. What else can you do to control your speech is, whenever you want to give a speech, try to be, again I would say, try to express, not impress. So choice of words could be easy. Don't try to put in flabbergasting and rendezvous types of words wherein you have to be little more excited about doing that. Try to be a normal speech, one-to-one communication. The easiest way I would say is when you are one person on stage and off stage, that is the time when everything falls in place. So try to be that normal person even during your stage performances. Especially in public speaking, it is often seen that person gets way too conscious and they try to put in accent or they try to give in big words to impress. Don't do that. Let it flow naturally, and then it would come out much more smoother and much more better compared to the way when you put it added efforts or visible added efforts. So, to control over the speech, we need 3 things. First of all, immense preparation. Confidence comes by your content, and content is thoroughly prepared. Then only we can get that confidence of delivering a better speech. Rate of thinking and rate of speaking when in sync gives an immense outcome in your speech. So you can work on your sync of frequency on that as well. Thirdly, Try to use simple words which are audible to and smooth to the listeners. Always remember, when you put yourself in their shoes, it's the best way to decide whether you are going right or no. So that is what we had talked about, controlling your speech. Controlling your speech also happens, for example, let's say I've been given 5 minutes. In the heat of the moment or with the flow of story, I've taken more than 5 minutes in just establishing the character or giving up the problems. By regular practice, by being regularly on stage, that is when it comes handy that you can conclude your story soon without missing the important points. So preparation, first of all, you won't come into that challenge. Secondly, if there is a disturbance or interruption while the speech is going on and you're running short of time, but you still want to end on time, this is one thing which comes in handy, that you be prepared, not only with your content, but also the most important part of your content. At times, it would also happen that you need to elongate your time. For that, you need to have enough content to support your extended time. So that is how you can be in control with your speech, and you last moment you don't have to panic that, oh, I have prepared for 7 minutes and I'm now supposed to talk for 10 minutes, or prepared for 7 minutes and now I only have 5 minutes. So with adequate preparation and control over your content, you can also manage the time. So you need to define that what is more important, what is it that needs to be given the priority. Now, for at general times, what we also need to do is define what topic we are going to talk about. For example, I am here talking about confidence building in public speaking. So that was a predefined topic on which I have to write a speech. But let's say you get an opportunity to talk in front of people and you are to decide what topic is to be chosen. Then it could be a point of confusion for many. Many of the times when I talk to my students at various locations, they just say that everything else is okay, but it is tough to find that topic. What is the method of selecting a topic? And the easiest way to do it is, what do you feel right now? What major incident has happened in your life in very recent times? That is what will be the best suitable topic for your speech. For example, right now, if I'm feeling for people of Ukraine, this is what I can talk about on humanity or a particular war. Or if I'm going through a rough patch in my business, this is one thing I would be open-heartedly and from my heart speak on. So try to have an immediate experience or the feeling which you are going through, and that would be the best topic. It would not only make you comfortable, but it would really come out of heart. You don't have to mug up and speak up. You need to just open your heart out. So one way of topic selection is that. Many times students also give me a counter question that right now I'm not feeling anything. What do I do now? Or right now I'm not going through anything. Life is monotonous, simple, boring. What do I do? In that case, there is always a counter question that, is it that you don't have any topic, or is it that you have too many topics to choose from? Most of the time the answer is they have too many topics among which they need to choose, and that is more confusing. So I'll give you a different out of the box technique for this, and this is, if you cannot write or choose one topic, choose 4 topics. Yes, you heard that right. How it happens is, many times we feel, should I be writing about a motivational speaker, or the freedom movement, or the climate change, or the nuclear war, or the rocket science? And you have these 4 topics in your mind. What you can do is start writing on this 4 parallelly. And over the time, first of all, you would not be in confusion. Secondly, over the time, you would be preparing 4 different speeches for 4 next occasions. Always remember, we talked about public speaking, practice, practice, practice. One speech would not get you there. You need to grab every opportunity of speaking in public. So if you're ready with 4 speeches, nothing like it. And that's a bonanza for you. That's a bonus which definitely you'll use it somewhere in your life very soon. So if you're not able to choose one topic, choose 4. And that comes with justification that writing on 4 topics parallelly could give you one final topic which you really want to talk about, and the incidents which you have collected or the thought process which you're going through brings you closer to that particular topic, and then you can deliver on it simply. So that is about the topic selection. So what we talked about today was structure of the speech, formation, and how it goes in the bracket of opening, body, and conclusion. So to revise, opening is something which captivates the audience immediately and it leads to your topic. Body is something wherein you give them a main point, a sub point, or an incident related to it. You can give 2 or 3 main points depending on the length of your speech, and every point should be supported by a sub point or a incident. Conclusion is something where you summarize the whole speech. You summarize a problem, you summarize the story, you summarize the character building, or whatever you have kind of speech you have given, and then you give them a takeaway or call of action. Call of action mostly is given in speeches where you want to persuade people. For example, if I'm standing for elections and I want to persuade to give vote for me, or vote for the change, or vote for my party, or something like that, in that case you give them a call of action at the end, which means, okay, for growth you need to vote and support me as a candidate. Or if you want to do anything, let's say even if you want to get the lift change in your society, you can finally conclude by saying, so which makes me think that we all need to work together and get this lift change for safety and security of the citizens of this society. Generalizing this could be opening, body, conclusion. In opening, you tell them what you're going to tell them. You tell them that what you are going to tell them. In body, you tell them what you wanted to tell. In conclusion, it is tell them what you have told them. If that's confusing, you need to rewind and see. Opening, what you're going to tell them. Body, what you're supposed to tell them. Conclusion, tell them what you have told them, which means summary of your opening, body, and conclusion. Now we come to because we had some question and answers at our DM, I would like to also discuss the questions which I have received from the audience. And one such question which generally comes very frequently is how to develop eye contact. So many times it happens that we are prepared with a speech. We know our content. It is contextual and we are confident. But when we look in someone's eyes, probably we get nervous. How do you develop that eye contact? The answer is as simple, which I always give. So in public speaking, 8 questions out of 10, the answer remains the same, and which is practice, practice, practice. There might be some cheats here and there, that you look at the wall in the front, or you look at the forehead instead of looking at the eyes, but avoid looking at the ground or absolutely up in the sky. How do you do it? Slowly and gradually you start building eye contact, first for fraction of second and slowly for seconds together. It is always said that eye contact is something which connects you with the audience. It creates a rapport with the audience. Audience feel comfortable and they listen to you more attentively by eye contact. But it is a practice which has to be developed slowly and gradually. A follow-up question on that was, how much is too much for an eye contact? So ideally when you make an eye contact with any part of the audience, it has to be not more than one particular sentence. So you cannot define it for 1 second, 2 seconds, and you cannot be very abrupt. That is not an eye contact. You are gazing the audience. So you look at one person, make a sentence or half, move on, tell a sentence or half, move on, tell a sentence or half, and then move on. So this is the kind of eye contact you can use with the audience. It cannot be more than 2 sentences because that it would look awkward to audience and might be for you as well. So brief eye contact, but good enough to give some point, give some content to that member of the audience in particular. So in follow-up of the question which we had given yesterday was that how do we get a good vocabulary? And we said that for having good vocabulary, what you need to do is read books and magazines and articles and watch movies. The follow-up question was that while reading books, the person might be definitely a good reader, avid reader, but he or she feels that by reading books I get to know the words, but how do I pronounce it? So with technology it's very easy. If you get those words on the video format also, it comes with the pronunciation, or if you're not able to get a particular word, you can just Google it and it will give you the pronunciation as well. So with the advent of technology, these things are very, very easy. You can just type in pronunciation of the word rendezvous and it will give you both the options, both American English and European English. Another question is, how many times do I practice for a particular speech? Amazing question, because it all depends on person to person. For example, what I said, I practice for a speech at least 5 to 10 times. And that is good enough for me. That makes me comfortable and confident for a particular speech. So whatever amount of number of times makes you comfortable with that particular speech, that is your number of times, and that will reduce over the time. For example, initially in my public speaking career 10 years back, I used to revise a speech for more than 25-30 times. Now I can do it for 4-5 times enough. For a workshop like this, I don't have to even write a speech, but again, needs a lot of practice, lot of effort, lots of patience. So just keep on doing and you'll get to know whether the practice was good enough or not, because not every chance is a last chance. You'll get many more chances in life. Even if at a particular time you prepared for 5, you practice it for 5 times, you go out and deliver a speech, but you feel, okay, there were some moments where I messed up, or I said something else, or I completely forget the topic, probably the number of preparations or number of rehearsals were less for your speech, and you can increase that amount of time. Another important question which came to me is how okay it is to use the notes. Now, for example, I'm talking to you and I'm able to look at the screen or in the camera while talking. Will it be okay if I am having this paper in my hand and continuously reading it instead of making eye contact on and off? That would not look good, and that is what makes it very much required that you try to have some content, if not all, rehearse it well, so that you don't have to carry this paper, because carrying this paper will first of all distract the audience. It will also question your credibility, whether the speech or the words are your own or not, or someone has written and given you. Thirdly, and most importantly, you yourself while giving a speech would be distracted by this piece of paper. Whether you're not having this content in your hand, you will still have this deep intention. Let me see something. This is just a getting way out of nervousness or anxiety, and that makes you again and again look or peep into that paper. So I would say avoid looking into the paper. If you are given this at the last moment, probably what you can do is you can use cue cards. So instead of writing sentences, you can write just one word for that particular topic, and you can use multiple cue cards. For example, cue card of this size would be good enough, and use 5 to 6 or even more cue cards wherein you write only one letter, one word out there. Which means if I am going to talk about public speaking and what and why and how of public speaking, on one card I'll be writing why, and then I'll be talking about why. Another card I'll be writing how, And then I'll be talking how is public speaking important, how it could be used, how it is beneficial, how it is done in day-to-day life, and thirdly, what. So I only have 3 cue cards in my hand, which means I have nothing to look into again and again. So instead of using notes, which is sentences, because if you have sentences, there would be deep temptation for you to read it out instead of making eye contact with the audience, and then audience would not feel, first, the audience would not be in sync, in page with you. Secondly, audience might question your credibility, whether the content is your own or not. And thirdly, you yourself would not be comfortable with the page in the hand. And of course, you would not be able to give in the expressions or hand gestures or hand movements, because your hand would be stuck with a piece of paper. So easiest way, best way to do it is do not use notes at all. Try to practice it enough so that you don't need notes. If at all you have to use notes, use small cue cards wherein you write just one word which defines your particular segment, and then you talk accordingly. So that is how it should be done. Other than cue cards, you can also use props at times, which gives you the indication that, okay, this is what I'm going to talk now, this is what I'm going to talk now, this is what I'm going to talk now. Never use a mobile phone, because a cue card is still okay, but taking out mobile and scrolling in front of audience, that would be a disaster. It would really not feel good for audience to see a person who they have come to listen and the guy is scrolling on the phone. So even if you have to do it on cue cards, never do it on the mobile phone. So to sum it up all, what we did today was, there were numerous things which we did. First of all, knowing how to structure the speech. It should have a proper opening, body, conclusion. Opening is something which you immediately grabs the attention of the audience and which leads on to your topic. Body is something which you tell them what your speech is about and give the relevant examples, incidents, or main points and sub points. And it comes to conclusion, wherein you summarize what you have said and finally give them a call of action or a takeaway. Because as we said, conclusion is important on the scale of 10 at 11, which means very, very important. So your conclusion has to be very great, and if you want people to listen to you, your opening has to be very good. And while moving from opening to body to conclusion, your transitions also have to be very smooth. What is transitions? Basically, when you move from one idea to another, or one incident to another, or from opening to body or body to conclusion, you just don't immediately jump off. So I've been into college and I had a great life. I went to a particular university and I did this course there. I got married. So instead of doing this, you can use the transitionary words or transitionary sentences, which means this brings me to the even more important part of my life, which is this. Or likewise, in my college also, I did this. This all has given me courage to do what I really wanted to do in my career. So that comes to the opening, body, conclusion, but very importantly, it has to be in a good transitive words or sentences. How you can do it is practice, practice, practice. The best way to always have a good transition is put yourself in the shoes of audience and see if it is soothing to your ears or not, if it is making sense or not, are you jumping the blocks or you're giving it a smooth story kind of feeling. So that is one thing you always need to remember. In a good speech, there should not be speed breakers, which means try to use less of ahs, ums and repetitive words. This will happen if you are well prepared or if you are using some techniques like reading out loud and things like that. I also have one question that initial 15 seconds or 20 seconds is when we feel nervous. After that, once we are accustomed with the eye contact, accustomed with the stage, accustomed with mic maybe, it's okay. How do we control those first 15 seconds? Amazing way to do it is breathing deep for at least 3 to 4 times. It soothes your nerves, and then you can start speaking. Try this when next time you are on stage, and it'll definitely give you a better impact. It does to me all the time. So for various kinds of speeches, we heard about opening body conclusions, how do you transition, how do you control your speeches, your ums, arms, your repetitive or filler words, and how do you practice and how much time do you practice, how do you connect with the audience, and what is the general purpose or specific purpose of your speech. Always stick to general purpose, because that is what will define you as a good speaker and in control of your speech. Then we talked about transition, which is very important because it need not be like roadblocks. It has to be a smooth sailing wave or a ship on a wave. You need to have a control over your content also. So while writing or rewriting or redrafting your speech, you need to have proper choice of words, which is easy to hear and easy to understand. Do not try to impress, try to express your thoughts and ideas, and that will get you going. With this, we would like to conclude our day, and any questions or queries, again I repeat, Instagram or Facebook, Khushal Lalwani, 𝐒𝐄𝐎𝐿 which you can see on the screen right now. Thank you so much. I hope you be a wonderful speaker and your communication skills get you to the greatest of heights. All the very best. See you tomorrow. Thank you.